So Tony Chapman of Tony Chapman Reactions writes an open letter to the Prime Minister today. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, I'm worried. What are you worried about, Tony?
Well, first of all, the Prime Minister said, I got to 1 million followers on LinkedIn within 3 months. So I said, well, if you got 1 million followers, what if we could send you 1 million messages? Because I don't understand why Canada is not the greatest and richest country in the world. We've got a small population to feed, yet vast in land, vast in resources. We're educated. We share a border with the world's greatest economy. We share the same language. We have a social conscience that people want to live here. We got all this stuff in a brand. You would, as a branding person, you say, you can't get better. But what's going on is that I look at this great divide between people in the public sector that have certainty of work and certainty of retirement and those in the private sector that don't. Is that fair? Is that going to lead to a civil revolution? When we're finally saying we're no longer going to pay for your security if we have insecurity. Second thing I look at is the fact that we say we're this great competitive country, but we have a third world currency, and we're still not creating meaningful jobs. We're still
Wait a minute, a third world country?
We're 70-cent dollar.
Okay,
listen,
but I mean, we're not one of those countries where you need a pound of money to buy a pound of bread.
We're not collapsing as a currency because we have so many natural resources, but our currency is dependent on the price of our natural resources. Is oil going up and is gold? Not our quality of our economy to create jobs. It's whether our natural resources, pumpers of oil and hewers of wood, or whether they're worth something. We have to borrow and tax our way to the future. You know, we talk about all this great country we're running. We borrowed we elected on $10 billion in deficit, which I thought was ridiculous. We're borrowing $40 billion at the time when the boomers, the last bastion of taxpayers, are retiring. We're borrowing money. We're pouring cement on the future of our kids. Why can't we grow our future? And then now we're going to go after privately held businesses and tax them. They're going to go after $250 million in revenue against a $40 billion deficit to do what? To take away the spirit of entrepreneurs. And the last thing, Jerry, is I think talent's the lifeblood of our economy going forward. We have no immigration strategy. We're a safe haven. We're a sanctuary city. We should be using our brand to go out and fly fish the best talent in the world. Get Justin Trudeau, if he's so popular, down in Silicon Valley saying, set up your business in Canada. Go to India and get the top entrepreneurs and say, hey, you're tired of being congested? Come to Canada where you can get some space and land to raise your kids. Build your business here.
You'll come and live in Toronto.
Get
away from the congestion.
Well, you go to Mumbai for
things. Okay. And that is when you talk about going out and fly fishing the best, that absolutely is the right thing to do when it comes to immigration. You don't just bring in numbers. You bring in people who will actually help you grow your country and make it better. So people who have something to contribute. When you talk about
franchise culture, you got to give people a chance to succeed. When we brought the potato farmers in from Ireland, it's because we needed farmers. When we brought the engineers in from Eastern Europe and that migration is because we needed engineers. Figure out who we need, and even from a refugee strategy through our immigration, let's say Canada is a place that people would cut off their arm to be part of, then let's take advantage of that versus just saying this is open borders so we're a primetime minister.
Well, I guess you're right from the standpoint that if there are 1 million refugees and we can take in 20,000, we could be selective even among the refugee population and accomplish two things at once.
Isn't that right? Shouldn't we be doing it? You think that people are going to say, oh, we should draw them out of a hat? No, find people that have a chance to succeed here. Do you not think that we should be looking and saying that to come to Canada, you need to know, have at least a command of one of our mother tongues? Do you not think, is that wrong?
Do you think that any of what you just said crosses Trudeau's mind during the course of a day?
No. And that's why I think if we start taking advantage of the fact that he opened his borders, I have 1 million LinkedIn followers, it takes nothing to connect to him. Let's start pounding back. And you know what? One thing that will connect with him is voters. Just like Kathleen Wynne, he'll want to get reelected like she wants to get reelected. And if they know there's enough of a majority going, we're mad as hell at what's going on in Canada, $40 billion is unacceptable government in my mind, especially when I don't see any advantage. Do you see anything from the $300 billion in debt from Ontario? Do you feel richer?
No.
Do you feel better? Where's that money gone? That's what I want to find out. Where is that money gone? Because that's how we got to start taking advantage of Canada. We think this great country is just going to go on forever. We're no different than Venezuela or Chicago or New York in the 70s or Greece. And in fact, we're just going at it faster.
Well, I think with Ontario, we're going at it like Illinois. And I've tried to get people to look at what's been happening in Illinois, where you had this, great state, great city, city by the lake, so many comparisons between Chicago and Toronto, Illinois and Ontario. And right now, they have an out-migration of people. They're going to neighboring states because of debt, because of a decline in the ability to do business in Illinois. And I think, Tony, that people think that in Ontario and to a larger extent in Canada, that kind of thing can't happen.
We're living this fairy tale, and it's going to happen because the next generation of entrepreneurs can say, where am I going to set up business? Where they tax me to the point where I can't make any return on my investment? Or am I going to find a place that says, hey, we welcome entrepreneurs because you create jobs? Everybody talks about this rich versus poor narrative. Wake up, people. The 5% that are very rich can go anywhere in the world. That's when you say somebody making $150,000 or $200,000 is rich and can be taxed to the point of breaking, they will break, and at the very least, they'll send their kids to go elsewhere to build their career. We've got to start taking control of Canada as a brand and what it represents. We should be the greatest and richest country in the world, and there's no excuse for not being that way. Boring your way to growth is just lazy politics.
So you wrote this as an open letter to Justin Trudeau, and people, if they are inclined, can find it where?
On my LinkedIn page, Tony Chapman Canada. Go to it, post it to his page, or what I would prefer, write your own. How are you feeling about the way they're running Canada?
Thanks very much, Tony.
Thanks, Jerry.